Hi, how are you?
Must be Callum.
Yes, I'm Callum.
Please take a seat
Right.
and triggers on the table.
Thank you. Susan, hi, nice to meet you. I'm Tom. I'm one of the doctors here. How are you going today?
I'm alright.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
Oh, perfect. And do you understand why you're here today?
Yeah, it's getting the results of that follow-up test I did.
Oh, yeah, the test you had
Yeah.
last week. Yeah. And just to double check, you had the test that was 12 months ago as well.
Yeah, so the one I just had is the follow-up.
The follow-up one. Yeah. And with the test that you had 12 months ago, was that explained to you?
They said there was some kind of abnormality, and that's why I had to get the follow-up one.
Oh, okay.
Something like that.
Something like that. Did you want me to go over it quickly for you?
Yeah, that would be good.
Yeah, okay, so like the last test you had showed that you had LSIL, so that's a low-grade squamous intraepithelial lesion. And so that's basically just some mild abnormalities that they found on your cervical screen or your pap smear, beg your pardon. And from that, we'll actually come back for another screen 12 months down the track, which you had recently.
Mm-hmm.
And depending on those results, which are from today, will then just dictate where we go from there.
Okay.
And so we've got the results here. And so again, it showed you've got the low-grade squamous intraepithelial lesion again, so the LSIL, as you can see here.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so then we've got the recommendation here that you then go for a further colposcopy, just to double check that there's no abnormality, because I'm not sure if it was explained last time, but generally this LSIL is caused by the HPV virus, which is a very common virus that a lot of people get exposed to throughout their life. And generally you can clear it within 1 to 2 years, but since you've come back with the result that it could still be present there a year later, we just want to go and double check that there's nothing else going on, and then we can just go from there. Do you have any questions about that?
Yeah, what's the colposcopy?
Oh yeah, the colposcopy? Yeah, so then we'll refer you on to a specialist, and that's just another procedure you can go to. And so basically, it's a bit similar. You'll still have a speculum inserted to visualise the cervix, and then they'll have an instrument there. And it's kind of like a pair of binoculars really, so you can get like a very clear sort of up-close picture of the cervix. It doesn't actually enter you in any way. And so it allows the clinician to have a very close look at the cells there, and they can do some further testing, and then take a further sample if needed.
Okay.
Yeah. And it shouldn't be painful at all. You can feel some discomfort, and then post the procedure, you may have some sort of like period-esque sort of cramp pains and maybe some light spotting, but they can advise you from that point further.
Okay.
Yeah. So, oh yeah, sorry.
This like LSIL thing, is that like related to cancer or?
No. So the HPV virus is a risk factor that can progress to cancer, but just because you have the LSIL does not mean that you can progress to cancer, because this can then progress to something that is HSIL, which is like a higher abnormality of the cells there, which again is a risk factor to progress to cervical cancer, but it doesn't mean that you will get it.
Okay. So what was the LSIL in the first place? Is that the HPV thing?
Yeah, so HPV is one of like the well-recognised and like risk factors for it. It's not the only thing that can cause the LSIL, but that there's I think there's over 40 subtypes of it. There's the ones that we're really worried about, sort of like 16 and 18, and they're the ones that their vaccine has been designed to help prevent against.
Yeah, well, I had that vaccine actually a few years ago, that Gardasil one, so...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, how did I still end up with
the LSIL?
Yeah.
So the vaccine's really good at sort of preventing if you haven't already been exposed to the virus, but if you already have been exposed through sexual intercourse, then the vaccine won't be doing anything for you.
Okay.
Yeah. Is there any other questions you've got at all?
So this... Because I'm with my partner Tim, and we're hoping to maybe get pregnant and have some kids and start a family and all that, but will this affect that at all?
Well, generally, I guess anything can affect the pregnancy and having a family and fertility, and fertility can be affected by a whole range of things. Personally, I wouldn't be that confident in answering the question because I don't know all the ins and outs, but maybe the specialist who'd be doing the colposcopy for you could advise you further from there. I can also get you some reading and literature as well if you'd like, because we've got some in the clinic, and I can find you some from the online websites.
That would be good.
Yeah. Easy, we can arrange that for you.
Yeah. I think that's all the questions I have for now. I guess I could always make a follow-up appointment if I've got more. So.
Yeah, exactly. And if you think of any other questions, or if I haven't explained anything adequately for you, or if you just want to recheck again, you can always call up to the clinic. I'll be here basically 8 to 5, Monday through Friday. And yeah, you can always make an appointment as well.
Okay.
But we can arrange that for you now,
Yeah.
the referral, and get you anyway.
Okay.
All right, cool. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Sorry, so I guess I could further elaborate on the colposcopy here as well.
Oh,
So depending on what they find in the colposcopy, they can do the test, they can apply some, it's basically acetic acid, and they tap it onto the cervix to look for any more abnormal cells. And then depending on what they find, they can sometimes take another biopsy, and that generally is pretty painless. But then continuing on from that, if they then decide that the management, you might have needed some excision of some abnormal cells there, just in case, you can then go to a procedure further down the line. It's called an LLETZ, and they can, it's basically like a wire loop that they can then excise the area of concern, or they can do a current biopsy, which is generally undertaken either under a general anaesthetic or local anaesthetic, depending on your situation. Yeah. But if you had any further questions about that, I'm sure the specialist would be much better at explaining it than me.
So, how did you feel that went?
Well, it went pretty well. I felt he answered all my questions quite well, and I choose him as my doctor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And did you feel like where he communicated to you, showed empathy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd say so, yeah.
And how did you feel about the way he answered questions that he didn't have the full answers to?
I thought he did that pretty well, and told me like where he would go to get help, and
Yeah. So you were comfortable with that?
yeah, like he had a plan for what to do if he didn't know something. It's not like he was making things up on the spot. So
Okay.
yeah.
And did you get a full understanding of why it was that you were having the pap smear in the first place?
I just assumed it was part of the whole standard. Do you mean like the original pap smear or the one that I just had?
Both. Both.
Yeah, so he explained the second one, and the first one was just part of that routine screening. So
Okay. Nice. And any of your fears about fertility and that, you felt like they were addressed appropriately?
I mean, well, he did tell me to go and talk to the specialist about it, which I will do when I get this colposcopy, I suppose.
Okay.
Obviously, he couldn't answer me right straight away, but I think I prefer that than making up something when he wasn't sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you.